Good morning. Welcome to the October CMO social briefing. This is a slightly new format. If you didn't join us last month to see this, don't worry, we're still talking about social media updates, but we are going to be diving a little bit deeper into industry reports in these sessions going forward, because we have been doing them for just over 5 years now, and we've discovered that it's always the industry reports that spark the conversation, get people excited, but there is, of course, always some feature updates that the platforms like to make changes that we will talk through as well. If you're watching live, hello, welcome. Please do say hello in the chat. We will keep an eye on that as we go through. Potentially, if you've got questions, we might leave them to the end, but I have got one eye on the chat, so please do say hello and let us know that you're here. My name is Luann Wise. I am a marketing consultant, been specialising in the world of social media and particularly B2B for too many years now, I think, and I get to split my time between working directly with clients, teaching and training. I've actually been out on the road for the last 2 weeks doing that, and writing books as well.
Yes, many books.
Yes.
I still absolute admiration for. And hello, everyone. If we've not yet met, I'm Andy. Spent pretty much my entire working life in B2B tech businesses across various different industries. Build products, spend a lot of time, far too long, thinking about social media. And yes, which is why we do this stuff. So here we are. Yes. And if we're not connected, feel free to zap those QR codes and let's connect. Today.
Yeah, so what we have in store, so Andy and I we got together to do these sessions because we realised that we both read the news all the time. It's useful to share that with you. We know that you're all very busy people working on this, so it actually also gives us real focus as well to put this session together for you. So what we've got in store today is the macro trends that are shaping social media, the important social media platform updates, the ones that we read about, and also as we go through what this might mean for you. We are more than happy for you to have a copy of these slides. If you want to share them internally with your teams, refer back to them afterwards rather than scribbling through notes. We will share this QR code again at the end of the session, so don't worry, we do go quite fast.
Right then, should we get started?
Let's just dive straight in, because social media consumption shifts. We love reading these industry reports, and one of our favourites, which is from datareportal.com, we'll put all these links in the chat afterwards. Usually they save their big annual update until January, but this year have decided to bring it forward because they know that this is the time of year that many people are doing their annual planning. So their quarterly update this year is effectively their annual update. It's over 700 slides long. I had a long train journey in the last couple of days, so I've read most of it. Good use of my time. The Wi-Fi was great as well, but I picked out just a few of them for you that I thought were particularly interesting. And some of these are about putting social media into context of other things, because while social media is important and does continue to grow and have new users all the time, other media are available as well. And this slide shows that in terms of overall media use for internet users, what people are consuming is that online video is top. We could argue sometimes that could go into the social media category because of YouTube and TikTok and Reels in particular, but they've pulled out any online video as being the top media use across the internet. 91.1% of internet users are watching video, which is huge. Just below that, you have got social media, then you've got online video related to social media, so your TikTok and your shorts. Just below that, we've got TV and press, and going down I thought it was quite useful to note, because podcasts, we've talked about a bit in these sessions. We know that they've had a massive rise. There's hours of podcasts. They are also on YouTube as well, but podcast is at 52.5%. So compare that to the 88% for social media and the 91% for online video. There's a lot going on, but there is quite a media mix in there as well.
Yeah, as you say, probably expect quite a lot of overlap on that, but the amount of video that sits above TV, which is very interesting, I find.
Yeah. And how long do people spend with this media as well? Because we know that the platforms, this is one of their key metrics, dwell time. How long do people stay on the app? Well, of course, video is what people are watching, they're spending their time on, it's engaging. So 11 and a half hours of watching online video a week. That's huge. And even though TV was a bit further down of the media, people again are spending almost 10 hours a week watching TV. So it is that long form, engaging video type content that is, people are spending their time on. After that, it is 7 hours a week on social media. Many of us might be a little bit more than that. I'm not going to ask people to share their screen time. Then we've got video games, kind of streaming and press. Podcasts 1 hour 55, which again, given the kind of hype and conversations around podcasts, I thought that was a lot lower than I was expecting.
Probably averages of like maybe someone's consuming maybe 1 to 2 podcasts a week, really.
Yeah,
it's about an hour in length, but yeah, interesting to see.
Yeah, or your podcast count as YouTube, depending on where you watch them versus the apps. This was also one that caught my eye in terms of use of social media networks and chat apps. I should say within this data report, all the 700 slides, there is breakdowns of everything, country by country, platform by platform. But overall use of social networks, we are seeing a real spread across demographics. Now, they're not the only criteria that we should be thinking about, age and gender. But look, across from our 16 to 24-year-olds on the left, all the way over to the right, there is a slight drop for the 65 plus, but otherwise, it's in the high 90s across every demographic group. And I think that's really telling as well. And we've got some more data on that coming soon, but this isn't just a young person's game, I think is my takeaway.
Yeah, if that doesn't shout ubiquity, I don't know what does.
Yeah, exactly. And interestingly, this report, so Data Reportal, we talk about it a lot. It's been going for 14 years now. It is free. It really should be your go-to for insights. The past couple of quarters, they have shifted their reporting in terms of time spent from number of hours a day to over the week. So it used to be kind of a few hours a day, but now 18 and a half hours a week using social media platforms, including video. So we talk a lot about social media. The data shows that this is where people are spending a huge amount of time, and they're doing it across different platforms. Now, interestingly, this number is now 6.75 different social media platforms that people are using. That has gone down slightly over the past couple of quarters. It was 6.8. This does differ by demographic group. We'll find the younger age groups might be 7 point something, the older age groups 5 point something, but it is showing more than one social media platform people are spending their time on for different reasons. And the summary of this report by Simon Kemp, I had a look at as well. He kind of said the numbers are getting bigger, but the digital behaviours are kind of consistent. What we're seeing is that changes over time are kind of incremental, so they're kind of slowly building, but also that we're not seeing replacements. So we know this from our conversations around, are people leaving X, going to Threads and Blue Sky? They're not replacing things. They're kind of working in different combinations now. So we are seeing kind of a different mix of those social media platforms, which is why it hasn't gone up significantly, even though we've had new platforms introduced over the past couple of years. People are regularly switching up the platforms that they spend their time on and the content that they are consuming on those platforms. And I think that's a really important takeaway for me. However, overall, when they looked at why do people use social media, what type of accounts do people follow, this order hasn't changed. The numbers might have changed, but the order hasn't changed. That primarily friends, family, other people you may know come out top. So it is all about that concept of connecting with people. Then we've got TV shows or channels. So that's the entertainment kind of element, which is then followed by comedians and other performers. Influencers, experts, companies and brands you purchase from are lower down, but there's still very key reasons and types of accounts that people will follow. So again, the order hasn't changed. The context hasn't changed, but just the numbers slightly. So I think this is really important to understand that it is still all about people.
I think that's the important thing, because especially this one is like, obviously it's quite broad, like all other people you know, right?
Yeah.
So, and I think that there will be a huge amount of overlap between there and where is it, influencers, experts. So yeah, the power of personalities that it relates to building your brand. I think this really does articulate this quite clearly. Yeah, so it's a really good point.
And for the first time, I found some Threads data within this. So it's not appearing yet on the rankings of like most active social media users. It's still too small on that, even though Threads has now reached similar numbers to Instagram and Facebook. It's not quite made it into the report yet, but this is the first time I've been able to find any demographic breakdown on Threads users, and thought this was really interesting that it has skewed quite young on this, maybe because of its interaction with Instagram in particular. But yeah, we said overall, social media users are across every age group, but Threads is skewing 16 to 34.
And skewing male is the other anomaly here, because you're
looking
looking at it's quite distinctly the other way when you look at 16 to 24 Instagram users. So I find that fascinating, actually, why Threads being slightly less visual seems to have more appeal to men, clearly, based on this report, which is interesting. Well, it's interesting depending on whether that actually matters for your marketing approach.
Yes. Well, Threads is kind of reaching those numbers. It's, almost, what is it, just taken over X as well in terms of daily active users. So while you may have been kind of quietly watching this one, the numbers are starting to create quite a good argument for moving or developing this idea further.
Yeah, definitely agreed. We're going to switch gears to some metrical data, which I'll fly through, and then we're going to get into some other kind of more tactical bits after this. But if we look at the platforms that drive the most follower growth, again, we'll link to these reports too. Interestingly, YouTube comes out on top for this, which I found fascinating. But it's particularly like YouTube kind of long form content that's driving that rather than shorts. And again, I share this fully in the knowledge that outside of some core platforms, followers don't matter as much as they used to, particularly as it relates to Insta and TikTok, which is kind of interesting. But good to see LinkedIn fairly high up in the mix, which is encouraging from a B2B point of view. But when you look at engagement, this is where LinkedIn is performing incredibly well. Facebook is still on the up and up. So even though Facebook has kind of been in the doldrums as far as like its utility as a marketing orientated platform for us as brands, there's a bit of a resurgence happening on Facebook, actually, and we're going to touch on that in a second. Some elements are down, however. I think one of the biggest shifts has been YouTube Shorts. So I found this particularly interesting because just a couple of weeks ago, we were talking about how YouTube Shorts is like TikTok in 2021. There's loads of opportunity, but all of a sudden the kind of a lever has been pulled in TikTok at YouTube, where it's like, I'm not sure we're giving away that much reach anymore. They're going on that transition from like reach to relevance. And you'll often see this in the early days when platforms launch features. Obviously, Luann, you and I have spoken about this numerous times, where new feature launched, they dial up discovery, dial up reach, get everyone involved. And then as they start to understand what content works and where, they just dial that back, where engagement rises, but the kind of inverse happens to overall reach, right? And that's fine. We want your content reaching right people. Right?
I just think this is really important, and we have tried to flag it a couple of times, but when we're looking at numbers, are you posting for reach or are you posting for engagement? You've got to have quite a clear focus and a mix in your content, because the numbers now and the opportunity for reach or engagement are so different. And it's quite difficult. Obviously, you need the reach to get the engagement, but the two different roles in your content mix and your posts as well. So you've got to look at these numbers differently. And I particularly like that we're starting to see the different content types coming through in terms of engagement rates as well. We've got Facebook posts here and Facebook Reels. We've got Instagram Reels and Instagram posts. We're starting to see within the platforms, there are different opportunities and different ways of reaching people and also getting engagement as well. So we're getting layers, more and more layers.
Yeah, that's a really good call out. And yeah, this is an interesting one. I'm less convinced by Metrical's wordplay, if I'm honest, but either way, it's good data. So yeah, Insta Reels views have dropped at an overall level, is what Metrical are reporting, which is interesting. I could back that up from my own, my own perspective. But interestingly, again, Facebook is performing incredibly well from views, interactions. As we've seen, it's up from an engagement rate perspective. So might be an interesting one if you dropped Facebook from a mix. And as we know, it's less about followers now. It's more about overall reach. So maybe there's an opportunity there to explore. Who knows? But just goes to show you, like, all of us are out of control with, like, we don't determine. And sometimes it can be like a bit disheartening when you look at, like, oh, this didn't do as well as last week. What do I do different with my content? Sometimes it's not you, it's them. So it's just how it is, unfortunately. But we do have ideas of how now we can drive extra reach and engagement by using particular formats in a different way, like you were just saying, Joanne.
Yeah, and I think what's just really useful here is just that repurposing your content as well. If you're creating a reel for Instagram, it doesn't hurt you to pop it on Facebook. And there's always arguments about cross-posting the same thing everywhere versus nuancing, but we have to look at the data. But it's important for us to understand that the platforms look at this data as well. So spoiler alert for something coming up. Instagram know that reel views are dropping, so they're making a change to push it forward again. So it's very much about keeping an eye on the numbers and adapting when you need to. And the platforms will do that as well, because Reels are so important with that online video and the dwell time. So they don't want it to drop.
Yeah, and it's 50% of the time spent on their app, so they cannot afford it to drop. But this was from a Dash Social report as well. So the TLDR of this is carousels are performing incredibly well. We all know carousels are great. Keep them a core part of your mix. Increasing amounts of sharing behavior. So thinking about our interactions, not just in terms of comments. If comments are reducing on your posts, don't see that as like necessarily bad. It's just representative of a broader shift. More people are starting to share things privately and go, oh, that was an interesting carousel or whatever it might be. They're less likely to comment their views on it. They're more likely to share it with their friend or boss and say, hey, have you seen this? So just think about that from when we're judging content success, but also to your point, Luann, just not thinking about platforms as a monolith, thinking about formats that matter the most.
Yeah.
Right. Some back onto TikTok, however. So it's quite useful because we're looking at multiple different reports. So across the data reporter one, Metrical and Dash Social, because it's nice to be able to correlate across different reports, because there's no way that any single set of data will tell you the entire source of truth, right? Because we're still talking on aggregate, taking a huge amount of consumer and human behavior into consideration. So, but it's nice when we're looking at multiple different reports so that we can make sure we're feeling more confident in our suggestions. Anyway, TikTok has then gone through this journey that I was explaining, where the dial has been turned from reach into relevance. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. In fact, I think it's a good thing. So reach is down, engagement is up. Average video view time is still incredibly low. The vast majority of people do not finish videos. Saw this reporting. This is exactly consistent with what we saw in the Dash Social report as well. Viewership, like, trending up. Follower growth is slowing. Shift in behavior. Most users don't finish videos. So that just means front load as much of the core narrative as you possibly can in your video video is going nowhere. We've seen this, Luann, you shared this, but video is getting kind of more nuanced when we look at how are we going to drive success from this. Overall views might decrease, but that's okay. That's in line with what we're seeing. But ultimately, all these platforms are trying to optimize for better levels of engagement, to get better at serving the right content to the right people. Do you want to do this one actually, Luann, about news? Because you've spoken about this kind of stuff before.
Yeah, and this is like thinking about why people are using social media and their habits, and news is a big one, whether people are consciously following news accounts or whether they're scrolling through and just see what people are talking about real time in the moment. TikTok is the leading platform for news. So interestingly, you think it's about entertainment, you think it's about dancing. It's not just that. This is where people are getting their news. So it's a source of discovery. It's important to understand that context, how people are being interrupted as well. We're seeing upticks across all of the platforms: Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. Reddit has dropped slightly in terms of its being a source of news. We'll talk a little bit more about Reddit later. But TikTok, not just entertainment now, it is a source of news and what's happening in the world. So important to understand what people are seeing on the platform, what they might be looking for on the platform, and the context within what you're posting as well. People are very aware of what's going on in the world right now.
Yeah, and if anything that you do for your brand has any relevance to like what's happening in the world, then this helps us steer ourselves as to what platforms we want to kind of have if we want to have a position on something that's happening in the news. That's not a position I've ever felt comfortable occupying from a social perspective, if I'm honest. But some brands do this very well. So if you want a news jack, then TikTok is probably the platform to do that on.
I'll just go back. I think it depends on what you classify maybe as news, because and maybe in a way TikTok, because of the way it works, feels like it's a bit more real time, like X, Twitter used to be. Because I don't know about you, Andy, whether you were scrolling on Monday morning, but mine was full of everyone doing, my week hasn't started well because Canva is down. I think almost anyone working in marketing, something's down and they jump straight on and create something about it. So news, what's happening in the world, but also being able to use TikTok for that real time conversation as well, which is maybe something that we've been missing since Twitter.
Yeah, I agree with that. And yeah, talking of TikTok, we've spoken about demographics, but when you kind of look under the hood of like social demographics of TikTok, you can see that it's also like very well spread across the demographic. Of course, we'd think of 18 to 24 as the bigger segment, but it's interesting to see how well split it is. Even in like more than a quarter of the users are made up of age 45 plus. So again, TikTok increasingly look like a great platform from like breaking news, getting on top of that, being able to reach a wide cohort of customers or multiple cohorts of customers, how they're changing the dial a little bit from overall, views into deeper engagement. So I think there's some encouraging signs really in like TikTok's ongoing utility for us as brands.
Yeah.
Platform update times.
Shall I fly through these? So platforms do make updates, we know that, and sometimes they do like to tell us what they're doing. And Facebook have told us that they are making algorithm changes, again, based on their data and insights. They're telling us that people are spending more time on Reels, so that's what they are going to show us more of. They've also said in this algorithm update that basically they're going to try and surface new content faster as well. So I think that's a good update, because I know particularly on Facebook it can feel like you're seeing things 3 or 4 days later than when people posted it. So still very much Facebook focusing on video, but also trying to get you the content faster. So we'll see how that plays out. Instagram have talked about being able to reset your algorithm. They've kind of had this option for a while, but do we do it? I don't know, but it's something to be aware of, that you can go in and let Instagram know what you want to see and what you don't want to see. So sometimes, particularly those of us that are working across multiple accounts or industry sectors, may have a whole mix in there. If you want to refocus, do some research, go in, reset your algorithm and get a fresh scroll.
But the vast majority of people will not do
Won't
this,
do it.
even though lots of people moan about the fact, oh, like I don't see stuff from my followers. The reality is, data has proven time and time again, if people choose their own followers, they spend less time on the app. So TLDR, Insta and Facebook are basically getting rid of the whole notion of followers, and they won't get rid of it officially because there'll be too much of an uproar. But it is just purely about recommending content. They're just smarter at recommending content to who they think should see it, not who you think should see it. So that's an interesting shift in how we use those platforms.
Yeah. And it is based on our interests and behaviours. So, you know, it is insight led to a certain extent. But potentially not surprising, let's talk about X. If you want more reach on X, you need to have a premium account. Some data here from Buffer has shown that those accounts that are using a premium subscription on X are getting more reach per post than those that are not paying for it. In terms of subscriptions and paying for accounts, Meta have now added an ad-free subscription option to UK users. I will just caveat that this one is driven by regulation changes because there was a case where someone was being served ads and they complained about it and said that they should have the option to not be served ads in their feed. So Meta's response was, okay, we will set up an ad-free subscription option and you can pay for it. You have to pay for Facebook and Instagram separately. $2.99 a month if you do it on desktop, $3.99 if you do it on the app. I've asked lots of people about this. Would you pay to go ad-free? Haven't heard anyone say yes yet. But I think from a marketing point of view, it's important to recognise that that's just a small snapshot of people. People might be paying to go ad-free. And so if you are running paid ads on Meta, you might see some drop in numbers, reach, impressions, clicks at some point if there's a lower advertising opportunity.
Well, the good news is that in Europe, the take-up rate has been 0.45%. So basically no one. So, you know, as always is the case, people raise their hands and go, oh, isn't this terrible? I hate ads, yada, yada. But no one puts a hand in their pocket. So it's just one of those things where Meta have just ticked a box and said, hey, you've got an option. Will everyone do it? Same as changing your algorithm. People won't. And it's just, you won't change human behavior in that way. And it's just a way for Meta to be like, okay, done that. I can't get fined anymore. We're all good. I'm very cynical about these kinds of things, but is there a broader change afoot? I did think this might drive a broader change, but having seen the data, I actually don't think it will.
Regulation is driving change, and it's something that I'm working on at the moment, but there's a balance between regulation and user behaviors, and you know, sometimes they just don't always align. But I'll update more on that in future months. Another update from Instagram, quite an interesting one. If you like to just export all your reports directly from the platform, you now can export your insights from your account, specific media, different types of posts as a PDF. So making reporting easier within app without necessarily having to use those third-party tools. LinkedIn have made some updates, more automation. So we're seeing the advertising, self-serve platforms, Meta Ads Manager, LinkedIn Campaign Manager becoming more AI-driven, more automated in terms of targeting, trying to help you. LinkedIn are adding that in as well around helping you to target by industry, job function, those kind of criteria. This is not such great news. For those of you that liked on your account to look at competitor insights from your company page admin, LinkedIn have changed that. You can now only look at one competitor for free. If you want to look at more competitors, I think it's up to 8 or 9, you are going to have to go for the premium company page option, which I think at the moment is $99 a month. There are some other features around the premium company page, including like auto following and some more insights. But I really loved this competitor analysis, and they've put that behind a paywall now.
Oh, I missed that one. That's a shame.
Yes. This slide has made me the happiest person for a long time. I've been ranting about how I hate the conversation around should we include links, should we not include links, the pros and cons. It was all about limiting reach. LinkedIn themselves have come out and said, no, putting a link in your post does not limit the reach of it. In fact, the opposite, posts with links get more interactions and impressions. I will just caveat that by saying I think you should only include a link if it is relevant to drive your viewer elsewhere, like to register for an event or a download, for example. Don't include them just to go and read a full press release or a blog post. No one's going to do that. You've got enough characters to include that on the platform. But in terms of putting your link in the post to make it easy for people to find, to share, accessibility best practices, so happy about that one.
I don't believe it.
You don't agree.
And I don't, personal experience doesn't tell me that. Multiple experiments, but again, sample size of one. So I'd love to hear from anyone else if this is actually true, because it would be wonderful. I agree. But I don't actually believe it. So anyway, I need wonderful people that's on this call to help us understand whether this is happening. Anyway, something that is happening is very much this shift to private sharing. This is a theme that will persist over the next year for sure. Threads, group chats to DMs. Threads are on a tear right now in terms of both their growth, in terms of their feature updates as well, doing a lot to facilitate those more kind of direct conversations as well. Nice way to build those kind of smaller niche communities on this platform. You can now DM any user as well. So this is actually a really useful like relationship building component as well. So if you found someone influential in the space that you're in, you can now DM anyone as well, provided that their kind of DMs are open and they haven't blocked any new messages. Very useful for building new relationships on Threads. Again, Threads isn't about like, driving mass views on our content. It's about real targeted engagement and spending time in those spaces that our audience frequent. And broadcast channels have been a thing for a little while, but now we've got insights in them, just showing that more and more people are like leaning into broadcast channels. Lots of brands have started to adopt them. They're probably a little too kind of one way for me personally. I'm not a massive fan of like that one way broadcast, but brands are using, certainly larger brands are using them very powerfully. And again, just shows that these features that are more focused on kind of more private engagement seem to be performing very well. And I'm going to continue on with this next theme as well, because this is something that we'll discuss tomorrow, actually, Luann. We'll be diving more into this, and I'll share a slide on that in a second. But yes, social is going through a big change, and 2026 is going to be utterly fascinating, to be honest. And yeah, quite frankly, I don't think it's ever felt as disorientating to be in marketing than it is right now. And I'm not sure 26 is going to make it any more smoother sailing, because when we look at what's going to happen with the Sora app, not available to us folk in the UK yet, but for the rate of growth that it's seen and for the way it kind of just flips the social media construct on its head, we've already seen how the social graph of like social media 1.0 has kind of disappeared. Now, TikTok made it all about recommendations and how content is shared to people. Now, OpenAI and the Meta Vibes that they released about a month ago now makes removes the social construct of it whatsoever. It's just entertainment. It just falls into that bucket that Luann, you were talking about right at the start, which is the growth in video consumption. So the roles that brands play on this, all to be seen. I think it's going to be fascinating watching this go. But naturally, what happens is a splintering effect. And that splintering effect happens between, yes, there's like more entertainment-led social content, basically video content. And the kind of counter trend you'll see to that is what we've just been talking about, is all of the kind of rise of those smaller private communities. So social media is going to be an interesting place. And this is more of a note because this is going to happen week after next. Your LinkedIn content will be used for training data unless you've toggled it off. you can do that within your settings on LinkedIn. I'd probably recommend doing that because no one wants our content to be used as training data. But just FYI, again, just shows the shift that all these platforms are moving towards, which is, you know, this is maybe a slightly negative take, but it's kind of the way that they're shaping. But if people can't create good enough content to keep people on the platforms will create it themselves. And that, I think, is going to change. That's going to be a very interesting dynamic, because as we've seen, it's an attention economy. It's all about time spent on platforms. So that is going to be fascinating to see how social media evolves in that way. And yeah, when we look at what ChatGPT can do, when people can buy directly from ChatGPT, you know, what role does social play in everything, in like changing buyer behavior, consumers, etc. Utterly fascinating. So a bit wild. And then when we look at the evolution of AI search, you know, I've been very bullish about Reddit for 3 or so years, probably more. And everyone lost their mind about Reddit because suddenly it's like, oh, it's on ChatGPT. Reddit, we all need to be there. Again, we lost the control of our understanding of the fundamentals. If our audience are on Reddit, we should be there. Reddit's still a large factor of how ChatGPT and others recommend products. LinkedIn is well up there, as is YouTube, but ultimately it's not the quick growth hack. And you know, this is very consistent with the narrative that Luann and I have had for 5+ years of doing this. Is like, focus on the fundamentals, like live and walk a mile in your audience's shoes, understand who they are, where they spend time, what influences them, and then use those platforms around them to help influence them in the way that you desire. Not just choosing platforms because they are the shiny thing. Anyway, that's enough of my soapboxing. Luann, any thoughts?
I'm just going to say, Joel, if you're watching this when we did the podcast, we told you not to panic about Reddit, and the data now shows that we were right.
Indeedy. Anyway, we're going to talk about all this tomorrow. So if you can tolerate any more of us, or just want to watch on demand when you've had a break from our voices, we'll be live on LinkedIn talking about this, because there's a lot happening here, more than we can unpack in 5 minutes section on this call. So back to you, Luann.
I'm going to do social search, am I? Okay, so this is really interesting. We've been
things on the fly.
So that's fine. I've prepped. Social search, we've been, again, I feel like stuck record. We've been talking about this for a while, how things are changing, how search is not just about Google anymore. It is also about AI. It is also about search. But something that I've been reading is, you know, again, we're not replacing, we are adding on. We are searching in different ways across different platforms, depending on our intent, depending on the depth of information. So, for example, we may search and ask ChatGPT a question, and absolutely you should then go and verify and check those sources, which you're likely to do on Google. If you're looking for inspiration around your holidays and your travel or fashion or makeup, you are doing searches on social media platforms. So the discovery, intent, the layers, the detail, we've just now got more options and we're layering those together. TikTok as a search tool, the numbers are up, people are opening the search magnifying glass very quickly within a few seconds of going on the app. So again, in terms of what does this mean? Content, think about discoverability, think about your content being seen by someone for the first time, always like first impression, not assuming they're seeing everything you know. Think about the captions, the keywords in the captions to help you get found.
Yeah, and making sure you're all good, all very good advice. And in your talk track that you'll have, just make sure you're using the keywords that you'd want to search for. Again, basically like just thinking like an SEO from a social content perspective, right? So if you want to be surfaced for the best makeup for X, making sure you put simply put
some words in,
and then say that in your video, and you're going to help your chances.
Yeah. And of course, once we see these behaviors, the platforms are adding the features. So TikTok are now adding search insights. So if you want to see what people are searching for, how you can, gather some information to update your captions and content, go and check that out in app. You took this one through, Andy. I can't see it on my screen.
Yeah, I'll mention this one because sometimes it's, when we talk in the abstract of like social search is growing. Sometimes it's nice to see a real example. Carrie is someone I follow pretty religiously. Yeah. She is absolutely wonderful in the kind of candid takes that she does. So because they're a search and SEO agency, social search has become a huge focus for them, which is actually really good insight for us as to how important it is. Anyway, so I think the point is like, get involved with social search, stop relying on going viral by chance. So here she wanted to go for it was about her trip to Bali, and she optimized her content for that particular search term that was trending. And then you look at the traffic sources for this post, all through 92% is from search, and you can see the search queries. So now we've got that in the post analysis on TikTok. Super, super useful because it's, this is the most smart way that we can use social. We've always said, like, it's not about getting 1 million views if we just did some content to please the algorithm. We want targeted views. I would take 10% of those views if that view was on some really powerful content that was directly linked to the action we wanted to drive. So I feel like really encouraged by the approach that TikTok are taking here to make it very clear to see, here's the keywords that are happening in our space, use those keywords in our content, and now we can understand from a performance analysis perspective, where did our content get discovered from? Love it.
Yeah. And video. So video, we know, the big trend, we've talked about it several times, it continues to dominate. There is a drop in reach on YouTube. We've already talked about that, the balance between reach and engagement. More and more people are publishing shorts. I don't know if that's because they're repurposing from elsewhere, but shorts are getting the engagement. But interestingly, YouTube, overall, the longer videos are also getting people to watch them for longer. So that 3 second actually does tend to be a bit longer on YouTube.
That drop in reach specifically is related to shorts as well.
Yeah. We've got questions in the chat about on-demand video, so I've already answered those ones. If you see me typing at the same time, on-demand video views are rising. So not everyone can watch things live, and in the moment, YouTube is a great place. We do add all of our recordings to YouTube as well as keeping them on LinkedIn. Users are watching longer. So, we talk a lot about short form content, but in terms of video, long form is also there as well. LinkedIn video. So I know you've been doing LinkedIn video weekly for years now, Andy, and we saw that they were promoting this. They added an extra tab to it. They were telling us that they wanted us to do this. Video is still important on LinkedIn, but creators, users have noticed a decline in their stats in terms of impressions. So it's always important to have a look at this. What does that mean? It's not always about the impressions, it's about the rest of it. But they are still working on it. And if you go to the next slide, they are still working on it. They're not giving up. Video on LinkedIn is still important. But again, they are looking at the data and they are looking at what kind of video gets the most traction, and they will be rewarding and pushing that more. So I think, again, we see these trajectories when there's a new feature of like, oh, we should do LinkedIn video. Everyone goes and does LinkedIn video. Then you can start to dive into the data and kind of go, oh, well, this type of LinkedIn video performs really well. People engage with that versus other types. And we get more granular, detailed, and can, just keep progressing slowly. Instagram, this is the spoiler alert I did earlier around, we've identified that Reels are changing. Instagram are changing the app. So the default will not be your feed. It will be defaulting to see Reels first. And the icons along the bottom of your app will also change so that you can access Reels easily as well. Interesting one to watch.
Yeah, big shift, that one.
And ads in Reels. So again, every time there's a new feature, a new platform, we've now got ads on WhatsApp, we've got ads on Threads, we've got ads in trending Reels as well. So we'll have to see how that flows out.
Indeedy. All right. Well, it wouldn't be one of these sessions if I didn't waffle on about communities for a bit, to be honest. So I think you'll all get this by now, but Threads have launched communities, and yeah, I think this is very cool, and I'm gonna pay very close attention to this. It's obviously brand new, but Threads really is taking over from, well, as we said, it's taking over from Twitter, as now, as you said, Luann, like the daily traffic has now eclipsed X. So that's cool. But we still kind of got a bit of a hole in our life where Facebook groups used to be, because they kind of disappeared. LinkedIn have tried to do groups a few times and then seem to have given up again. I don't know if you've seen any life from some of the group work that you've been doing this week, Luann. But like maybe Threads is the place where these types of communities could thrive. It seems to be this is the angle they're really leaning into. So basically something to pay close attention to and think about for like your 2026 plan, if it looks like a good fit for you. This is just something I'm not doing anything with now, but more in kind of evaluation stage. Oh, wow, we made it. Like 10 minutes to go.
How do we do? Well, let's just go back, because in terms of Threads communities, I do think this is a key area for growth. And I think I've mentioned before that you can find really niche conversations and you can follow the community. So in a way, a little bit like the old days of Twitter lists as well, being able to kind of follow the community, find them really easy, get involved. I'm following a few at the moment, finding that really useful. I agree with you on LinkedIn groups. I think it always depends on, who set up the LinkedIn group and how well is it managed. I post most frequently and engage myself in professional membership association groups, which I guess is their community within a community. So using an established platform rather than, I know many organizations have tried to use other apps, but if people are already on Facebook or LinkedIn, they seem to have kind of moved backwards to a platform that they don't necessarily control, but where people are spending their time. And LinkedIn does show you your group updates in your newsfeed. So not big, but focused and relevant. And I would actually say Facebook groups, again, it depends on the ones that you're looking for. Is it local community? Is it peer-to-peer? I know there's some HE people on the call. They will know exactly what I'm referring to. There are some very active Facebook groups around higher education and university audiences, particularly the influencers of the decisions as well. So maybe less so in B2B, but it doesn't mean that those options aren't there. But I would definitely, if you are going to start exploring Threads more for 2026, have a look at which conversations you want to get involved with as well, because there is some nice niche areas on there.
Solid advice, like that. You want to do us you want to recap?
A wrap up. So much, and we really hope you like this new format. Please do send us DMs and let us know. We're trying to go beyond the feature updates and kind of just dive into them all a little bit deeper. But really, there is core themes that will emerge over all of the sessions around, yes, social media consumption patterns are changing, users are changing, as well as the algorithms and the platform features. It's about understanding these and responding to what we need to, maybe quick wins versus long-term thinking. Private sharing is changing the landscape of social. We need to be thinking about our content. Honestly, if anyone asks me to review their content plans, and I'm sorry that sometimes I'm bad cop on that, I don't want to say, tell us what you think in the comments anymore. I want you to think about, would someone share this with their peers, their colleagues, their friends, other audiences? We've got to change the nuance alongside the user behaviours that we are getting told about. AI, looking forward to tomorrow's session. We're going to dive into that, what it means in terms of content, social media platforms, metrics, IP. We can easily spend an hour on that one. We've also talked across many sessions, search, get some keywords in your captions, spend time on them, do video as well, talked about those niche communities, and just to reiterate, those LinkedIn updates around company targeting, if you're doing advertising, are important, and also those competitor insights. And I know there was a question in the chat, which I did answer, saying, if you've only got one, can you keep changing it? Yes, I've been doing that with the current limit for years, but of course, it will take you a lot longer. Join us again. So join us tomorrow. It's at 12 o'clock. So when you do a LinkedIn Live, it plays live on the event at the time. If you go back to the same link, you will see the recording in the same place, or you will see it on my profile or Andy's profile. We will be back with this session at the end of November. We always try and do the last Thursday of the month where possible, but it's half term next week at 11 a.m. So you can register for that. And again, if you connect with Andy and I on LinkedIn, you'll be able to find those as well. There's the QR code for the slides. If you can't scan the QR code because you're on multiple devices, just pop something in the chat and we will get it to you. And we haven't mentioned this, but we want to see you in real life. We know many of the names I'm seeing them, I know you're not, Andy, are joining us in London on the 12th of November. It's just over 2 weeks away. It is a day dedicated to social media in B2B. It's in Shoreditch. You can play ping pong as well as listening to presentations, fireside chats, panel discussions. Tickets are still available. Get in touch with us if you are interested and have any questions. We will be talking about this on our social media accounts over the next 2 or 3 weeks. We will come back to it next month as well. But if you do want to join us for a day in London, we would love to see you.
I cannot wait. Cannot wait for this one. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, very excited. So thank you. It looks like we've had some first timers today. So looking for that. Whoever said you're looking for LinkedIn training, yeah, absolutely what I do. So I will message you afterwards on that one, and we'll also run through. So if you have any thoughts or questions afterwards, then I will keep an eye on the chat. Thank you for joining us. We've covered a lot. Andy, I will see you in London.
Yes, see you very soon. Thanks so much.
Take care.
Take care.
Bye.